One conversation, one expert, endless opportunities. Welcome to the first episode of Realtor Times. All right, guys, welcome to the first episode of Realtor Times. My name is Puya Purayesh. I'm a realtor down here in Toronto. I listen to a lot of podcasts myself, and I really felt the need for realtors to have a podcast so sellers, buyers out there can get some kind of guidance. We're going to be bringing top producers, successful realtors on the podcast. We're going to have them talk about the market, give their ideas if you're selling, if you're buying. So it's a really good opportunity to get some advice, to see what kind of like works for you guys better if you're selling, if you're buying, and so on. Today we have Noel here from Remax Your Community. It's a pleasure to have you, my friend.
Thanks for having me, man.
No worries at all. And we are going to be talking for a few minutes and getting into the market, getting into some personal stuff.
Okay, let's go. This is going to be fun.
And let's see how it goes. All right. Noel, so tell us a little bit about yourself, man. How long have you been in the industry? And give us a little bit of detail of what you do.
So I've been in sales for about 5 years now. Mm-hmm. A lot of my business nowadays tends to be on the commercial side of things. Mm-hmm. But mind you, I still enjoy every other aspect of real estate. You know, I still have a healthy amount of work in the residential market as well. But right now, my primary focus is commercial real estate.
That's awesome. So we're going to be talking mostly about residentials on this episode. So we're going to want to get some idea from you.
Not a problem. I can definitely articulate my thoughts on the residential market as well.
That's awesome. So first question for you, Noel. What do you think of the market right now? Do you think the market's going to go down more? Is there going to be like a bigger crash? Or do you think it's going to turn back soon? What do you think of the Toronto real estate market currently?
So I think right now to kind of summarize everything, I think we are going to see some more depreciation for at least the next year. So with that being said, and I'm just basing that off of geopolitical factors, economic factors that I'm seeing within the country, I think we're going to see depreciation for the next year. How much that is going to be, we don't really know as of yet. So with that being said, I think if sellers were looking for a time to sell, I think now might be the opportune time, because we know what they can get today. But if they elongate the process and wait for, let's say, another 6 months, they very well will not be able to sell at the same price they can today. Now, to talk about the market a little bit more granularly, it really is the tale of many markets. Obviously, there's a lot of pessimism surrounding the condo market right now, but the real estate, the fundamentals are still very, very strong, right?
Of course.
If you look at freehold in, let's say, Bloor West, which I have buyers shopping around in right now, you can still put up a home for sale at $799, and it's going to sell for 1.2 within the next week, right? So there are segments that are still very strong, but I'm not insensitive to the fact that, you know, like I said, tale of many markets. West end of Toronto, it's still doing phenomenally. Whereas, let's say, maybe Burlington freehold, it's a little bit more stagnant, right? So things are happening at different places or different paces, I should say, in different places.
Of course,
Yeah.
of course. So I see your aspect on the seller side of that, but what would you recommend to the buyers? Do you recommend for them to stand on the sidelines and keep waiting for the prices to go down if you think that the prices are going to go down even more than they have? Would you recommend for them to wait a little longer? Would you recommend for them to jump into the market? What do you think?
If the intention is to buy, if the goal is to buy, and there is hesitation because they're waiting for the market to further depreciate. Now, keep in mind, we don't know what that number is. Some people think that, hey, I've heard before, hey, Noel, should I buy today, or should I wait for the opportunity for the market to depreciate 5% within the next 6 months? Well, rather than waiting 6 months for the possibility of that depreciation happening, why don't you offer 6% under ask today, for argument's sake, right?
Exactly.
So if you find something you love, then I encourage you to jump on it. because Murphy's Law in real estate is a real thing. If you see something you love and you don't jump on it and you try and wait for a more opportune time, well, somebody else is going to take that opportunity, and
Exactly.
they very well could be celebrating Christmas in the home that you were thinking about celebrating your holidays in, right?
100%, 100%. I personally think that if buyers are out there, and even if they don't want to pull the trigger at the moment, I think they should definitely go out there with the realtor, see the opportunities, see what they can get for their money. Honestly, I think it's a very, very good time to get good deals. It's you can never, in my opinion, I think all the experts say this, you can never forecast where the very, very low or the very, very high is going to be.
Right.
So I think going out there, looking at the opportunities, see what's out there for you guys. I think definitely you should definitely have a look at the opportunities that are currently out there. You don't necessarily need to pull the trigger right away, but I think it's very keen for them to go out there and have a look to see what opportunities are currently out there. Now that being said, let's talk about the condo market, the downtown condo market.
Okay.
How's that looking?
I mean, condo sales are up.
Sorry.
Condo sales are up. Now, mind you, things are still slow. Are not slow, but there's still a lot of inventory, right? And it's going to take a while to eat through that inventory, and obviously we're not going to see any appreciation until that happens. Now, something that I'm trying to have my buyers keep this in mind, that are communicating that they are looking for a condo downtown, is that like post 2027, we have nothing coming to the pipeline right now, and we're in 2026, mind you. So in a year's time, things could change very dramatically because we're just not bringing new supply to the market that can compensate supply and demand, right? And then not even just that, but if we consider that the foreign buyer ban is also lifting in 2027, and keep in mind, it takes about 18 months to reinstate these sort of legislations, right? So if we didn't start today, the foreign buyer ban is lifting, and at that point, we're going to have more buyers in the market that could be eating up what remaining supply we do have left in a year's time.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So let's ask a little more of a personal question.
Okay.
Would you buy in this market for yourself?
I would absolutely buy in this market for myself. As a matter of fact, I'm shopping in this market for myself.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome to hear, man. Would you buy for yourself as an investment, or would you buy to live in?
Oh, that's a great question. It depends on what it is. Like right now, I'm shopping around for a condo for primary use, my principal residence, right?
That's awesome.
Now, for me, and to each their own, but as far as an investment, I would purchase commercial real estate. I know it's not the topic that we're talking about right now, but I just like how the laws are a little bit more landlord friendly. Now, mind you, things are changing for the better at the LTB marginally, but things are improving. I think it was just yesterday actually. The LTB is going to start releasing their records to the public to view, so you don't need to rely on like Open Room or single key to view LTB proceedings.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, as an investor, would you buy commercial real estate, or would you buy residential?
If I had to choose between the two, I would lean towards the commercial side. But if there was an absolute deal to be had and just all the numbers aligned and they made sense, and it was in regards to a residential investment, then I'd give it the time of day. I'd prefer multifamily if I could. You know, if it's residential, something under 6 units, where if one of my 5 tenants like leaves, then I'm still cash flowing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, I have a question for you. So, when a seller wants to sell their home, a lot of the times they reach out to multiple realtors and kind of negotiate with multiple ones to see which one offers what.
Yeah.
And obviously, one of those realtors wins the listing.
Yep.
What do you think the difference is between that realtor and the other ones that got the listing? Are they offering more? Are they offering less commission? What do you think it is? So sometimes some realtors are very dominant in some of the areas, and obviously that kind of works on the seller's mind that they just sold my neighbor's house and my neighbor's house, so they kind of have that flow and
That
traction in
authority.
that, yeah,
Yeah.
in that area. They have the connections in that area, so it might not be a bad idea to list with them. So what do you think? What is that person that's getting the listing doing a little better to get the listing, or what are they offering?
Answering questions. That's what they are doing better, because what I do find when sellers are interviewing multiple agents, sellers don't know what they don't know, right? They don't know the questions necessarily that they need to ask. But if you could kind of fish those questions out of a seller to see where they find the value, then you know as a realtor what kind of level of service or what services that seller wants, right? Now, sometimes sellers, they are sensitive to commission. But if you can frame it in a way that the value that you're providing them, it warrants that commission, right?
Of course.
Because at the end of the day, this is our job, right? And some of us realtors, we do it very, very well and should be compensated accordingly, because we do deploy a lot of capital into our listings to get the job done.
Exactly.
Right? We deploy a lot of time as well. So as long as we're actually doing that, then there's usually little hesitation to the commissions. But it's always good to be able to break it down for the seller as to where the commission is going. So in my seller's guide, I have an entire breakdown. I show that 15% is going to my back end at administration. Another 15% is going to my marketing. So if we can show them where everything is being allocated, then they understand why it is where we're asking for the commission we're asking for.
Of course, of course. So another question I have for you is, a lot of the times, I'll tell you, excuse me. I'll tell you my own perspective. I want to ask you, the question is, what is the single most important thing that a realtor can do for your listing? In my personal opinion, aside from all the marketing, the nice photos, the videos, and all else, personally, I think is the communication.
I agree.
think what the realtor brings to the table in terms of communication is very, very important. And the next important thing is availability. There has been times that I have tried to book a showing for a property and I have a very interested buyer. I've reached out. I'm not able to book a showing online, or I'm booking a showing and I'm not getting a confirmation. I'm reaching out to the realtor multiple times, calling them, texting them, emailing them, and they get back to me 2 days after, and I've already shown other units to my clients, and they've kind of have changed their mind from that unit. Even if before we went to showing that unit was their favorite, now that they've seen 5 or 10 other units, they've shifted from that unit, and now they have a new favorite in mind.
Yeah.
And personally, I think it's a big loss, especially in this market, for that realtor to lose that kind of a buyer where they're that interested, because you never know. It might be in a buyer that's that interested, or it might be just a buyer that's going to come look at the house and not buy.
Right.
But you can never risk it. So personally, for me, I think that's the most important thing that a realtor can do while listing your property. But I want to get your idea on this as well.
So I'm actually on the same page as you. I think it's like the communication and the availability is extremely important. So I would say the exact same things. But something that I would take further is that because I want agents to call me if they have questions, right? I want them to be able to access me if they're bringing me an offer. So what I do is I make sure that my contact info is in the brokerage remarks. I make sure that it's on the MLS data sheet, just because I want to be as accessible and as helpful as possible to put a deal together, right?
Of course.
In addition to something that I do see that a lot of realtors just don't do, but it is very important, is filling out the MLS data sheet in completion, right? Put the dimensions of every room in there, put the features of the bedrooms, put the exact square footage if you can. Make it as comprehensive as possible, so you know that when you're putting filters and a criteria on the MLS to search for inventory for your buyers, then so long as all of those little pieces of information are on your MLS data sheet, that might come up in those buyer searches as well, right?
Yeah, of course, of course. I think having a very detailed listing is very important because a lot of the times I see that the realtors are not putting, let's say, how old the building is, and when you filter it to the age, the property just doesn't come up, even though it might be in that category. Um, so let's talk about something a little bit more related to the economy that we have here in Toronto,
Okay.
or in Canada in general. So, how do you think the government is performing at the moment, and what do you think? Obviously, it's been having a huge impact on the real estate market as well. But in general, how do you think that the government is performing, and is there something that they could improve to improve the economy, put more money in the pockets of the citizens of this country, and so on and so forth?
So, well, one thing that I will say about what the government has done, at least, is I think exempting buyers from from the GST side of a transaction for new builds is a phenomenal thing to do.
Yeah.
I think it really does help a lot of would-be buyers get their foot in the door and get the deal done, so to speak.
Of course.
In addition to, if some municipalities have done this already, where they are just completely removing development charges from developments, right? If we can find out a way to lower those development charges in perpetuity, then it's going to assist the consumer, because at the end of the day, the developer has no choice to pass those fees to the consumers, right? Hence why pre-con is so expensive. So I think the government has done quite well in regards to new builds. As far as affordability goes, the only thing they can really do is keep building. But if we're being realistic, we cannot build at a pace that's fast enough to keep up with supply and demand. So hence why, I don't want to say that real estate is going to be that there's always going to be an underlining sense of real estate being unaffordable to some, right? And it's just going to come down to Toronto being Toronto. We are one of the most competitive, sought after markets in the world, really. We're up there with LA, New York, London.
Of course.
And that's due to our infrastructure and post-secondary institutes. People want to be here, right? And the problem is that we will never have enough supply to accommodate every person. Hence why things are always going to be so expensive.
Of course.
But I don't think that there's really anything that the government can do to change that.
Honestly, I think the government can definitely perform better than they are right now. I think that there definitely could be some moves from the government to create more jobs in this country, to tax the citizens, the residents of this country less, so they have more money in their pockets to be able to afford homes, afford their daily lives. Whereas the government is providing a lot of grants where here's this grant, here's that grant, here's this for groceries. I don't really believe in those kind of things. I think the government should be working towards a healthier economy where there is more jobs, higher paying jobs for the people of this country, so they can comfortably afford. Toronto, for example, Toronto in Canada is a very expensive city to live in. So for the Torontonians to be able to live here comfortably, they should have a job that matches the expenses of this city.
Right.
So in my opinion, the government, the most important job that the government has is to make infrastructures and build the economy in a way where there is opportunity for the entrepreneurs, investors to come here to invest in this country, and that way there'll be jobs created, high paying jobs created for the Torontonians, for the Canadians, that they can comfortably afford a good life here, like it was many years ago.
Right.
And I think we are lacking that a lot right now. And it's a critic that I have towards the current administration, for sure.
Right.
But all right, so to jump away from that topic, so I don't know if you've seen the stats that came out, the TREP stats that came out on the real estate market for June this year. So I was looking at the stats for June of 2026,
Okay.
and then I went back and I looked at the stats for June of 2025. So when you look at the stats in June of 2025, I don't really remember exactly what the number was, but there was a downgrade, there was a decrease in the number of sales in June of 2025. Where you look at it in June of 2026, there was a 10% increase in sales. And when you look back, the active listings in June of 2025 was showing a 35% increase from the year before. And when you look at June of 2026, the active listings, there was a decrease of 13.5%. So that means, in easier terms, that means less inventory, more buyers on the market.
Yep.
And I think I'm not saying that it's going to change the market overnight and it's going to become a seller's market all of a sudden.
Yep.
But I think if this trend continues on, we're going to see a shift in the market for sure. And I want to get some idea of you. What do you think about this?
I think we were headed towards the bottom. I think that the light is at the end of the tunnel. I think it's going to take us a while to get there, but we do have reason to be optimistic. And to your points, we have less inventory now, so less competing inventory. We have transaction volume, which is kind of it's scaling at a pace that is faster than inventory is being able to come out, and that helps, right? That tells us that we're going to get a sense of, how do I say it, normalcy again. Where we go back to the way real estate was transacting, let's say like pre 2021, right?
Yeah.
So I think there is a lot of optimism for sellers, because at the end of the day, when things improve in that nature, it benefits those that are trying to sell, right? Maybe not so much the buyers, but it's something that both sides need to keep in mind, right? It might make sense for many sellers to not put their product on the market until things get better, until more inventory gets eaten up.
Of course.
Because then they could potentially sell for a higher price, right, than they could today.
Yeah.
But buyers need to take that into consideration too, because if we're already seeing that transaction volume is outpacing new inventory, then that is a sign that their window of opportunity is closing.
Of course, definitely. I think the thing is, when the market is on a decline like it is right now, when you look at the stats, the prices are changing about 4 to 5% per year.
Right.
When you look at the year-over-year stats, but once the market jumps back, you don't want to be in that situation where the market is kind of like climbing back and the shift happens so fast, and you might end up buying a property for 10% more over a month's term. Just because the market has shifted now.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't take that risk. If you're a buyer, you should definitely look at the opportunities that are out there for you guys. And the other side of the coin is that with the market being a buyer's market right now, in some areas it's actually a balanced market. There's so much inventory on the market. You have so much different type of homes that you can have a look at to find exactly what you're looking for. And the other thing is, you can negotiate down with the price. You can put the conditions that you want. You can inspect the house. You can make sure they have a financing intact, or if you have any other conditions that you want to be met. Right now, you have that opportunity to put that in your purchase agreement. But once the market jumps back, you will not have that opportunity anymore, and we'll be back to firm deals, and there's another person that's waiting for you to not be able to buy the place so that they can buy it, or things like that. So there's going to be a
Exactly.
lot of competition, and you're not and you're I think a lot of buyers, I have a few clients that are waiting on the sidelines. I'm not a pushy realtor, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
I give my advice, even if I'm selling, if I'm buying for a client, I give my honest advice.
Yeah.
And I don't want to push my clients to do anything, honestly. But in my opinion, they should definitely consider at least going out and looking at the opportunities, because the market's not going to stay like this forever.
I agree. I think if they truly, if the dream was home ownership, I think they owe it to themselves to get out there and see what's out there, right? Because to your point, it's just conditions that we haven't had. We've never had these conditions in my tenure as a realtor, right?
Of course.
So yeah, you have an abundance of inventory to choose from. You have more options than you've ever had. You have the best pricing that we've seen in a long time.
Very long time.
And to your point, you can throw in the kitchen sink in those conditions, right? You can ask for a dog. You can get anything you want. So there's just so many favorable aspects about being a buyer right now, and I don't think that I don't think that it's being kind of taken into consideration as far as like the masses. I think that a lot of it's news too. They paint a pessimistic picture with real estate.
Of course.
But to kind of make it short and sweet, it's just buying today. It makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. So my last question for you, Noel, have you ever? Because I know, like, when somebody wants to sell their house, obviously.
Yep.
If they have a realtor in mind, if it's just that one person, they reach out to them, they go on the market. That's one thing. But a lot of the times, the sellers want to interview a few different listing agents, and so one realtor gets the listing. Have you ever turned down a listing? Have you ever been at a point where you're like, no, you know what, I can't really work with this client, or I'm not gonna get the best outcome for them, or this is not gonna work for me, and you walked away from that?
So I always try and I always try and set expectations very, very early. If a client wants to work with me, or if a seller wants to work with me, I'm never going to tell them no. But I am going to set expectations very, very firmly. Now, if they want to list at a price that is just completely unrealistic, then it's my job to be able to communicate that they're not going to get what they want to get. Right?
Of course. Yeah.
And let's just say, for argument's sake, they want to list at a certain price. Fine. The only thing I can ask for at that point is when we start seeing, or not when we start seeing, but when there is no action, when there are no offers, when there are no showings, that's a market trying to communicate to us that we're not priced appropriately, right? The market has spoken.
Yeah.
So it's at that point, after like a 7-day, maybe a 10-day period, we go to my number after the fact, because I'm never going to prevent a seller from trying.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's my job to sell the real estate for them, which is their goal, right?
Of course, yeah.
So if they can work with me and doing that, which 9 times out of 10 they will, so long as I give them a little bit of leeway in trying what they want to try first.
Yeah, of course.
Then I usually I get the job done for them in a way that the market supports. Yeah. And that is still favorable to them.
Of course. Honestly, I've had situations where another realtor has came in and said that the house is worth X amount of dollars, and with my comparable and market analysis that I've done for the house, the house is worth Y amount of dollars, and
right.
And obviously the other agent said a higher number, but when you look at the comparable solds in the area,
right,
the number doesn't make sense. But just to get the listing, they give the sellers a higher number. But I think, honestly, sellers should be smarter than that. They got to look at becoming lucky and being that one lucky sale in the neighborhood and selling 5 to 10%, 15% more than all the neighborhood homes is one thing, because let's say the buyer walks in and they fall in love with the house and they're willing to pay that premium. or something happens and they become lucky, that's one thing. But we can't really list the property based on luck.
No.
You got to look at the numbers. There are stats out there, how many days they've been on the market, how much they've sold for, and so on, so forth and so on. So I think it's very important for the homeowners to kind of look at the stats before they list with a listing agent. And just because somebody comes and says that they can sell for $200,000 more than the other agent doesn't really typically mean that they will. And a lot of the times, in my opinion, they get the listing at a higher price point, they list it and they get no traction, and they kind of tire out the seller.
Yeah.
And they start to decrease the price slowly, and they kind of like implement their way from there. But honestly, I like honest transactions.
Yeah.
I give my honest opinion on what the price is, whether the seller likes it or not. I tell them exactly what their home is worth based on my market analysis that I've done, based on the sold comparables in the market. So I don't really want to schmooze my way in.
I get that. I get that. And you know what, man? To your point, when you're showing them the comps, like, a listing appointment is a lot like math class, I find, right?
Of course.
Like, you got to show your work that communicates the value of the home, right? So if you do that, then you've done everything you could at that point. But that agent that's promising like $200K over market value,
exactly,
how is he coming up with that number? And I think the sellers, they would be doing themselves justice if they just asked that question. How are you coming up with that number? Now, mind you, it might they might just agree with a number just due to bias, right? Because their daughter got married in the backyard or something like that, and that adds a $50,000 premium to the property.
Definitely.
But yeah, you always got to be able to show your work, and you do that by showing the comps. And at the end of the day, that's all you can do. That's all you can do. But I have had it before where actually, I've lost listing appointments before. Don't get me wrong.
Of course.
And they listed
We all
with
have.
and they list with another agent that overpromises and underdelivers, especially on the sale price, right?
Yeah.
And I get called back in after the fact to clean up the mess.
I have
right?
that. I have that same experience
Yeah.
as well. And I think that's the best case scenario for us to be in.
It is. Yeah.
It's not so good for the sellers, but now they're kind of like, now they know that we. No, I don't want to say that I told you so or we were.
I was
right,
just gonna say
you
that.
know,
Yeah.
But it's. But now they're kind of like they've kind of like gotten tired of those false promises that the other agent has made and the overpricing and all else. Yeah. So they kind of like want to kind of like sell. At the end of the day, the goal to list the property is to sell the property.
Right.
Obviously, the price is very important.
Yeah.
But the most important goal is to get a deal going, to sell the property, to have a happy buyer, and to have a happy seller.
Exactly.
And I think that's the most important thing.
Absolutely.
Noel, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate your time, and
my pleasure.
Hopefully, we'll have you back here again very soon.
You better. Let's do it.
All right. Awesome. Guys, thank you guys so much for spending some time with us. Until next time, stay informed. We are trying to put some content out there so you guys can make a more informed decision when you're buying or selling your real estate. Comment down below if you guys have any ideas for us. If there's any topics that you want us to talk about in the next episodes, comment down below, and see you guys soon. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to Realtor Times and turn on the notification button so you stay tuned for the next episodes. Until then, keep asking more questions because more questions lead to better results.